Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you'll meet the CEO and founder of Flourishing Faith. It's an amazing nonprofit that uplifts women and helps them deal with modern day struggles. Her incredible story just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
So my dad is a pastor, and so I've been going to church my entire life. But as I've gone from church to church, some churches do a better job than others at ministering to people and what they're going through in their average day. And so there is a need in the space to really be relevant to people, and that's where my next guest comes in. Brooke Ladouceur is the CEO and founder of Flourishing Faith. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you're amazing, and I want to talk about your faith in a minute, but let's kind of set the stage because you've been very, very successful in real estate. That you and your husband have a couple of amazing companies. Why don't you share?
Sure. So I have been doing real estate for 15 years. I worked for my parents' company, Worthington Realty, and they started that, in the early 80s. So I remember being young in the back of my mom's Lincoln, and she'd go show houses since I was a little girl, 4 years old. And since then, I met my husband, and he was playing for the Dallas Cowboys for 16 years. And after that, we moved and transitioned to my hometown, where he took his NFL money and poured it into our community, Parker County, which makes me so proud that he did that. And we started a few developments. We live in our first one, and then we built our second one, which is Bluebonnet Ridge. It's in Weatherford, Texas. 2-acre lots. It's just gorgeous out there. I was giving a tour just yesterday. And our brand new one, we just opened in Aledo, is Summit Ranch. And wow. These things are the way that my family brings in our income. But then I also love volunteering. I volunteer, it's my 4th season to coach my daughter's volleyball team and her basketball team.
Wow.
And then I was on the Center of Hope board for 7 years. I just rolled off for 1 year. I'm fixing to go back and do another 7. But I chair their galas. This will be the 3rd time they've asked me, and it's such an honor. And the Center of Hope is not only Christian-based, but it is the most amazing nonprofit I have ever seen. It helps full circle, and you can go onto their website and check them out as well. And my other volunteer that I love the most is Flourishing Faith.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to pull up the website, and as we scroll down the website, tell us more about what it is that you offer women.
We offer women a day of rest and refresh, and we host our events at beautiful venues like wedding venues, help women feel celebrated and valued. And the goal is to pamper them with great food, inspiring speakers, and meaningful fellowship. It's amazing to watch how they come in the morning of and then how they leave full of hope and joy and perspective and new friendships. It's transformative to see them leaving refreshed and renewed.
And tell us about the kinds of speakers you bring in.
The first year I flew in speakers from California, Nashville, and then another one from Tennessee. The Nashville was a musician. And the last year I went a little more local. And this year I have some that are coming from different areas in Texas, but mainly it's God brings them to me. So I wait. The hardest part of Flourishing Faith is that it's not mine, it's His. So the waiting period of when He moves, then I have to be ready, and then I have to wait until He moves. So the speakers are usually the new one that's coming next year. She found me, and that's such a God thing.
And I know the speakers are incredible, the food's incredible. but there's camaraderie that women find each other. I'm sure there's friendships that have been birthed because of Flourishing Faith.
Yeah, the table talk is always their favorite. Whenever they get outside and they sit around a table and I have questions that we've prayed over and thought about everything, and they get to share their life, that's when the connection, the deep connection starts. And that's where friendships are born.
So we talk about modern day struggles. Give me some for instances. What kind of issues do you get into?
So right now, what I am dealing with, a lot of the feedback I hear is anxiety, worry, and depression. So we really dig into how to tell the women to fight these battles and to give them tools to fight the battles and meet them right where they're at.
That's so beautiful. And among the speakers, you're an amazing speaker yourself. So we've got this little clip. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Worry will come into your brain and then it invites in anxiety. And when anxiety comes in, it invites in fear. And when fear comes in, it likes to lock the door and not let anyone else in, likes to take control, and it gets stubborn and doesn't want to leave. So the best way for you to get in front of this is to learn how to take your thoughts captive. God tells us, do not fear or do not be anxious 365 times in the Bible. Well, that's not a coincidence. In fact, I don't believe in coincidences. That's one for every day of the year because that's how much he knows that we need to hang on to that. And worry is not from Christ. Jesus says in the Bible, quote, so do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself, Matthew 6:34. So if worry isn't from Christ, then who's it from? It's from the enemy. And every winning sports team studies their opponent. So what is our opponent trying to say by using worry and anxiety as such a strong tactic against us? He's trying to do that because that's how he distracts us. Distracts us from what? Distracts us from just being in the moment. And especially distracts us from glorifying God. You cannot show gratitude and worry at the same time. You have to be in one of the other of the thoughts.
Well, you're a natural speaker. Have you always been a little bit of a preacher?
Yeah, Mom has pictures of me when I was about 4, and I'd line up all my stuffed animals, and I'd have my Bible, and I'd preach to them. So it's definitely a passion of mine.
All right, Brooke, for the person who doesn't read the Bible every day and they really are being called to crack it open, where would you point them?
Well, you know, you can always turn to 2 Kings 6:26, and this reminds me of a show I watched on Cops one time. This is the funniest show. There's a prostitute walking down the road, and the cop car comes up, and she flags him down, and she tells the cops, help me, the guy took my money and my crack, and he won't give me back my money or my crack. And the cops are like, you're asking us to help you go get your drugs. And she's like, well, aren't y'all supposed to save people? Now, the cops knew what she did. And so then they listened to her for a while, then they asked her, so what do you do for a living? And then she was like, oh, and it hit her. And so she was like, you know what, I'm not talking to you. And she ran off. Well, crazy enough, in 2 Kings 6:26, this woman approaches the king, and she says to him, help me, my friend and I boiled her baby last night and ate it, and now tonight she's hiding her kid from us. I mean, isn't that kind of crazy? Like, people want some zombie stuff. They're looking for all this crazy things. Well, there's some crazy stuff in the Bible that you should just read through. You'll be pretty shocked. Menage a trois and all types of stuff. But also, on a more serious note, I would start with Daniel, chapters 1-5. I love Daniel, how he is so courageous, and nobody, not even crazy King Nebuchadnezzar, who when he gets mad at people, he just burns them in a furnace. But he doesn't even back down from him, and he ends up actually saving that king's soul. It's a gorgeous redemptive story.
Yes, well, you talked about faith and stress, and it's a big plague across the planet. What are some tools that people can use to get themselves out of that fight or flight?
I'm glad you asked. Trying to get that breath and that rest and digest, a better place, put that oxygen to your brain instead of to your muscles. Okay, so what I like to do is know the difference between solitude and isolation. So isolation is when you're going to binge watch TV, and it's we're going to lay in bed all day, and it's poor, pitiful me, kind of a victim mindset, and that's not going to get you anywhere at the end of the day. So solitude is getting outside with nature, going on a walk, just hearing from your Creator. No one knows you better than the one who made you. So getting alone with him and letting him pour into you, be it walking up a mountain or just sitting by a creek, anything that can just get you realigned and kind of balanced. I love getting close to water. I think water's very healing. So go swimming, get in the hot tub, get in the pool, or even a shower. I hear a lot from God and feel very connected to him just in the shower. But if you could find a beach, it blows my mind putting on those snorkeling gear and putting your eyes into the ocean and seeing all the amazing fish that he created. And I'm like, and then he took his time to create us as well as all those little details. It just makes me feel like I'm getting a big hug. I love that perspective of how amazing he is. And I just feel honored that he still cares about you and me and our daily thoughts as well.
Well, I know you're a strong believer and God always puts messages on your heart. One of the reasons we connected is that you're thinking about doing a podcast.
I am. I don't know what that looks like, so I'm going to ask you later a lot of questions. But yeah, anything I could get out there, information for people just to tune in and even fast forward through. They're like, oh, I'm dealing with depression. Let's look at that. I'm dealing with, relationship problems, marriage problems. Anything that we can kind of get rid of the issue so you can flourish and grow and be who God wants you to be at your best. And that's the end goal.
And you sent me some notes, and you have a story that you like to tell about a cemetery.
Okay, this is so good. The dad pulls up to the cemetery with his family one day, and he says, okay, tell me what y'all see. And the wife's like, a cemetery? He's like, I know, but what's in it? And the kids in the back go, trees, tombstones? He's like, okay, what else? And they're like, some flowers. And he's like, okay, what else? And the wife's like, well, I see the people's names. And he's like, what else? And they're like, come on, Dad. Their birth date and their death date. And he said, okay, in between from when they were born and when they died, there's this little dash. And he said, y'all see that? And they're like, yeah. And he goes, that dash is every decision they ever made in their life. Every birthday party they went to, every friend, every relationship. It comes down to that. And when you think about your life in that type of perspective, you realize how important every single moment is and that you want to make the best of your dash.
Wow, you are such a powerful storyteller and communicator. Brooke, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, why don't you look into that camera on the left and just talk to the woman who's struggling and breathe some words of inspiration into her.
I would love to. First off, find someone you trust to talk to. You're not alone, and you shouldn't have to carry a burden alone. And then I'd also maybe just Google some scriptures of what God says about your worth, because you are amazing, and you are made for so much, and He cares, and you're valued. And I would just take a Sharpie, or I guess a dry erase marker, and write it on your mirror. I keep a dry erase board in front of my bathroom where I see it all the time, and I'm always changing the affirmations that I'm telling myself because I'm always growing and going through different things. But you have to pour into you, and the best person, once again, that can do that is your Creator. So you have to get into His Word and learn how much He cares about you.
Wow, Brooke, that's a great way to end this segment, and thank God that He put a number on your heart, because I know you're going to change so many lives through your ministry and your podcast. We're going to end with her website, which is flourishingfaith.life. Brooke, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.